Welcome to Everyday English Practice channel. Today, we will talk about how to start thinking in English. Learning to think in English is one of the most important steps in becoming fluent in the language. It may seem difficult at first, but with consistent practice, it will become a natural part of your daily life. In this video, we will go step by step through how you can begin thinking in English, how to keep practicing, and how to stay motivated throughout the process. By the end of this video, you will have a clear understanding of how to begin thinking in English and feel more comfortable using English in your daily life. Why should you think in English? Before we get started with the steps, let's talk about why thinking in English is so important. When you think in English, your brain starts to process the language more naturally. You don't have to translate from your native language into English every time you speak or understand something. This makes speaking and listening faster and easier. Thinking in English helps you become more fluent, more confident, and more comfortable using the language in various situations. It's also a great way to speed up your language learning process. When you try to think in English, you stop relying on translations and start connecting ideas and words directly in English. This is a powerful way to boost your vocabulary and grammar skills. Step 1. Start with simple words. At first, don't worry about trying to form complete sentences in your head. It's okay to start small. Begin by focusing on simple words. You can practice by thinking about the things you see or do in a day. For example, when you wake up in the morning, try to think of words like sun, bed, alarm, coffee, work, or breakfast. These are words that you use every day, and it's a great starting point because they will be easy for you to remember. When you associate simple words with what you're doing or seeing, it will help your brain get used to thinking in English. For example, if you're having breakfast, think bread, juice, egg, apple, and so on. You don't need to try to make complete sentences at first. Just focus on individual words and begin to recognize how often you already use them throughout your day. Step 2. Label things around you. Another helpful technique is labeling things around you. It might sound simple, but it's incredibly effective for building your vocabulary. You can start by labeling objects in your home, your office, or anywhere you spend time. For example, label the door, window, table, lamp, computer, clock, and shelf. When you label the objects around you, you'll start to build a mental map of English words associated with the things you interact with. This is a great way to reinforce your vocabulary, as you are constantly reminded of these words in your everyday environment. In addition to labeling physical objects, you can label the actions you perform as well. For example, when you go to the kitchen, think about the word cook, eat, prepare, or clean. This connects what you do with the English language, making it easier to remember these words. Step 3. Describe what you see. Once you start getting comfortable with basic words, the next step is to describe what you see around you. When you look outside, at the people around you, or even at your pets, try to describe them in English. For example, if you're outside and you see the sky, try thinking, the sky is blue, or the clouds are white. If you see a dog, think, the dog is running, or the dog is big and brown. You can even try describing the weather or the activities happening around you. It's a sunny day, there are many cars on the road, or people are walking in the park. This practice not only helps you build more complex thoughts in English but also helps you get used to thinking in complete sentences. Describing what you see and experience in English trains your brain to use the language in more meaningful ways. Step 4. Think about your day. At the end of your day, take a few minutes to reflect on what you did. Try to think about your entire day in English, focusing on the actions and events that occurred. For example, in the morning, think, I woke up at 7 a.m., I had breakfast, or I drove to work. Later in the day, you can reflect on meetings, conversations, or errands. I met a friend for coffee, I had lunch at a restaurant, or I worked on a project. Before going to bed, think about what you did that day and how you can describe those activities in English. Thinking about your day in English can be a great way to practice speaking and writing, as well as reviewing your vocabulary and grammar. It's a wonderful way to practice and prepare for conversations you may have in the future. Step 5. Practice every day. The key to becoming fluent in English is practice. Practice makes perfect, and consistency is very important. The more you practice thinking in English, the easier it will become. Even if you just practice for a few minutes every day, it will help you develop the habit of thinking in English. You can start by setting aside 5 to 10 minutes each day to practice. You could do this during your commute, while doing household chores, or even while walking outside. It's important to make thinking in English a part of your daily routine. As you practice, try to increase the amount of time you spend thinking in English. Gradually challenge yourself by thinking about more complicated topics, like current events, your goals, or even your dreams. Step 6. Speak to yourself. One of the most effective ways to start thinking in English is to speak to yourself. It may feel strange at first, but this is a very powerful technique. When you're alone, try speaking to yourself in English. For example, when you are cooking, you could say, I need to cut the vegetables, or I will put the rice in the pot. If you're walking somewhere, you could think, I'm going to the store now, or I will stop for coffee. Speaking to yourself in English not only helps you practice but also helps you feel more comfortable with the language. You can also try speaking to yourself about your thoughts and feelings. I feel happy today, or I am excited for the weekend. This helps you connect your emotions to the language, which makes it feel more natural. Step 7. Don't worry about mistakes. One of the biggest barriers to learning a new language is the fear of making mistakes. You might feel afraid to speak or think in English because you're worried about getting it wrong. But the truth is, making mistakes is a natural part of the learning process. Everyone makes mistakes when learning a new language, and it's okay to get things wrong. Instead of worrying, embrace mistakes as opportunities to learn. When you make a mistake, take note of it, learn from it, and move on. The more mistakes you make, the better you'll become at recognizing and correcting them. The important thing is to keep practicing and to keep moving forward, even if it feels difficult at times. Step 8. Surround yourself with English. Another important way to help you think in English is to surround yourself with the language. The more English you are exposed to, the more you will begin to think in English without even trying. This can be done by listening to English music, watching English movies or TV shows, reading English books, or following English-speaking social media accounts. By surrounding yourself with English, you'll naturally pick up new vocabulary, phrases, and sentence structures. This will also help your brain get used to hearing and understanding English more easily. The more you immerse yourself in English, the more comfortable you will feel thinking and speaking in the language. Step 9. Be patient. It's important to remember that learning to think in English takes time. You won't be able to do it perfectly overnight, and that's okay. Be patient with yourself, and don't rush the process. The more you practice, the more you will improve, but don't be discouraged if it feels slow at times. Learning a new language is a journey, and every step you take is progress. Give yourself time to adjust, and celebrate the small victories along the way. Remember, every time you think in English, even for a few seconds, you're getting closer to fluency. Thinking in English is a powerful way to become fluent in the language. It takes time and practice, but with consistent effort, you will begin to think in English naturally. Start with simple words and phrases, label things around you, describe what you see, and reflect on your day. Practice speaking to yourself, surround yourself with English, and be patient with the process. The more you practice thinking in English, the easier it will become. Soon, you'll find that thinking in English is second nature, and you'll be speaking and understanding the language more fluently than ever before. Good luck, and keep practicing.